Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm Susan Linder, your host of the Innovation Storyteller Show. And today we're doing a very special series called Nordic Visionaries, where I have the amazing opportunity to interview some of the most brilliant thinkers living at the intersection of innovation and sustainability. I'm talking to innovation leaders from Norway, Finland, Sweden, and Denmark about what is happening in the Nordics that we here in America and around the world can learn from on how we bring sustainability and innovation to the fore. And that's why I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest today, Ann Molin, who is going to be telling us about so many new ways to actually hack your way into sustainability and innovation with a brand new lens and a brand new insight on how to do this well. If you don't know Ann yet, let me tell you, she is driving citizen-driven innovation for global impact. Ann is a leader in sustainable innovation and citizen-driven solutions, dedicated to leveraging innovation to address some of the world's most pressing challenges. As the founder and secretary general of Hack for Earth Foundation, she leads global initiatives that transform ideas into real-world solutions aligned with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. If you don't know them yet, you will by the end of this conversation. With a strong belief in the power of sustainability, diversity, and impact, Ann developed the Dream Hack Build method. And this is a structured approach that has engaged more than 25,000 participants from 125 countries, mobilizing diverse communities to co-create solutions with real societal impact. Through Hack for Earth, she has fostered partnerships with organizations like the UN, the Swedish government, AWS, AstraZeneca, UNICEF, Office of Innovation, and the Nordic Council of Ministers, not to mention companies like Ericsson, where she has positioned her hackathon method as a strategic tool for sustainable innovation. I'm talking about huge hackathons like Hack for Sweden, Hack for Crisis Sweden, Hack for Earth at Expo 2020 in Dubai, Hack for Earth Youth Hackathon at COP27 and 28, and her upcoming Hack for Earth Expo in 2025 at Osaka. So without further ado, because the accolades could just keep going, I'm so grateful to welcome you to the show today, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on this podcast on Nordic Visionaries, Susan. It's great to be here.
How does it feel to be a Nordic visionary, Ann?
It's an honor. I don't really know if I see myself as a specific Nordic visionary. It seems like a very big word, but I'm very honored to be selected in this very good crowd.
Yeah, you are in a fine company here on the show for sure. So I want to dive right in and tell us how you came to this idea of hackathons at this intersection of sustainability and innovation. Where did this idea come from? How did it come to you?
So actually, I'm a psychologist. I've been working as a licensed psychologist for many years. When I stumbled upon a hackathon back in 2017, and I was then at a government agency in Sweden. And I just thought that this tool, this very interesting tool, could be used in such a interesting and more. So I was actually selected to be the head project manager for Hack for Sweden. And Hack for Sweden is an initiative by the Swedish government where they invite the citizens of Sweden to come and hack, create solutions for Swedish society. For the good of Swedish society, using open data from Swedish government agencies. So I think almost 50 government agencies are sharing their open data to the public who comes and works in teams and create the solutions. So this is where I first got in touch with hackathons. And I just, to be honest, I fell in love with this extremely exciting way of creating innovative tools in a very short period of time. And at the same time, you are also building trust and strong teams. And you actually have real solutions at the end of the hackathon. So how could I not continue working with hackathons?
So
Yeah.
what do you think, why do you think psychology plays a role here? What can we learn even about what our brains are doing when we're doing this kind of work? What's happening for us psychologically?
So really the interesting, what I found out when I started working with Hack for Sweden and then Hack for Earth was that there was very little contact between these two areas of expertise or these fields of expertise that I have was in touch with. So
Mm.
uh, I found that that was something that needed to be remedied because psychology and innovation has a lot to do together, and bringing them together would be, I thought, very give effects that could amplify. But at the time, I didn't see that, like, I noticed that my perspective as a psychologist was bringing another perspective that wasn't there before when I entered the hackathon world. And partly because I instantly saw that this way of working in teams with specific challenges, both that it created this trust and strong teams in a very short time, and also that you could build real solutions if you really worked on the challenges really well. You could also build really interesting solutions and also bring, because the hackathon is it's a serious thing because you're building really good solutions for the society or for the
Mhm.
world, but at the same time you're having fun. And that is, I think, the best combination, because just because you're doing very serious things, working on the sustainable development goals that can be that they range from ending hunger to creating real partnerships for the future and ensuring education for all in the world. Very heavy topics, but if you're having fun at the same time, I really think that creates really better solutions with also a higher level of innovation. So that's, I think, one part of the magic sauce of the hackathon tool that I discovered.
I think there's another piece too of like how do we actually get to implement what we do together when we're in a hackathon. So for some of my audience who might not have familiarity with a hackathon, this is the ability to look at a big problem, figure without necessarily knowing the solution that we're going for, right? We could say we want to get to X, but oftentimes it's allow our creativity to try to address this bigger issue. And then let's not get so caught up in the how. That'll come out with time as we get closer and closer to trying to find real impact, right? So it's this collective working together, it's this desire to solve a big problem together, and then also to execute, to really, because a hackathon is nothing except an idea machine if we don't plan to execute on those ideas.
Exactly. So that's the actually the now what you're talking about now is actually the reason why I started the Hack for Earth Foundation,
Mm.
because when I was working for the Swedish government with the government initiative Hack for Sweden, there was one thing that the Swedish government didn't allow me to do, and that was create an acceleration program for the winning solutions, because that was not part
Mhm.
of the initiative. So you can't, well, I don't know, you can't blame the government for that because it wasn't there. It was do a hackathon once a year. But for me, that's like, if you don't take the solutions forward and give them the best possible fertile ground to grow into real tools that have impact for society and in the long run the world, and it's meaningless. It's like going to a great workshop. I think we've all been to this really great workshop, and then what happened to the great ideas we had? It's just, yeah, and that's really a waste of people's time, and
Mm.
I didn't want to continue doing that. So that, and then after a while, if you're in that situation, you just have to say, then either I will give up that idea, or I quit and I start my own way of doing it. And that's what I found was the way I wanted to do it. So I started the Hack for Earth Foundation, and later on the Hack for Earth company, and with a specific purpose of creating citizen-driven innovation with hackathons as a tool, but also to create our own acceleration program that can both work on the psychology of the teams and the solutions. And because in the startup world, the audience probably already know this as well, but in the startup world, it's hard to be a startup. And a lot of the time, the reason that you fail is that you run out of money. Of course, that's one big failure. But one of the other things is that you don't have the right team or the right leadership or the right competence in place. So when you start out, everybody is happy, and you're going to save the world and everything is great. But after a while, you are going to run into difficulties because you're not going to agree on everything. Once you do that, you need the tools to work around that and come out of it as a stronger team than when you entered. And that is what we bring to the acceleration program Build for Earth, and what is unique about what we do. So there's, besides all of the regular things in an acceleration program, like business planning and pitch training and communication skills and financing and those kind of things, we also have specific leadership sessions and also work with the team in how they communicate, and by creating psychological safety in the teams, because psychological safety is the number one most important factor for successful teams. No matter what task they have, psychological safety in the teams is the reason most important reason that they will succeed. And that's not just me saying that. This is from science.
Yeah. So what does psychological safety look like in a hackathon? Is it creating just really good rules and boundaries, or is it?
Oh, we work with them during the hackathon as well, but mostly this is after the hackathon. So
Afterwards? Yeah.
first we have the dream phase, where you create the challenges, and a challenge is what you hack on in a hackathon. So the challenge, it's kind of like, I don't know if this expression translates to English, but in Sweden there's a saying that is, the way you ask a question will determine the answer.
Absolutely.
So how you ask the question will have large impact on what you get, the answer you get. And it's the same with hackathons. So you have to have a challenge is often shaped like a question. Say, can we have just an example here? How do we provide clean drinking water for the entire world? That's not a very good challenge because it's too big. So you need a sharp, defined challenge, and that will determine the outcome, because it will determine how the teams work with it. And the optimal thing is that also the teams are involved. The people who are involved in the hackathon is also involved in creating the challenges. That is the best, because that's how you create engagement. But then there's the hackathon after that, and that's usually like 24 to 72 hours, and you work in teams online or in person. And then you turn in the solution, and a jury chooses the winners. And after that, that is when the acceleration program starts with the winning teams. And there's a lot of work, of course, to be done after the hackathon is done. It's a great way of creating solutions really fast, and giving also people a sense of that it's possible to do something with really difficult challenges in a short period of time. But of course, it's a very new idea. You have to work on it, and you have to do all the diligent work, of course, in order to create a startup and a company, and that's where the psychological safety work comes in. So my colleague, Dr. Christopher Wernmark, he's a psychologist, and he's an expert in organizational and team psychology, and he's the one who works with the teams and the team's leaders during the 6 months that the acceleration program takes. And parallel to that, they have all these sessions with experts around the world on business planning and communication and so forth. And there's another thing that we do that is unique, I think. They don't get the prize money directly when they win, because if they do, science proves that they don't often invest the money in the right things, so they lose the money to spend the money on the wrong things. And that's only natural, because they're eager and they're really new, and it's easy to make a mistake there. So they will get the prize money at the end of the acceleration program, because then there's both an incentive to finish the acceleration program, but also it's it's a much greater possibility that they will invest the money safely in a way that will make the company thrive. So
Yeah.
with this said, some of the solutions, many of them are on the market today. Not all of them, I wish they were, but a lot of them are. And it's great to see that kind of impact.
So, I mean, this is just indicative of so much success that has come out of the Nordics when it comes to innovation and sustainability. Why is it that you think the Nordics have been so successful? What is it that, after Silicon Valley, you have the highest per capita number of unicorns, right? I mean, we're all familiar with companies like Klarna and Spotify, Truecaller. Of course, every parent in the world is familiar with Minecraft at this point. So if you have a kid and your kid has a computer, you know what Minecraft is. So, and even worse, you've had to listen to your kids talk about Minecraft endlessly.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that you think has made the Nordics so successful?
Mix of a few different things. First of all, I think one of the biggest contributors to so many innovative ideas coming out of Sweden and the Nordics is that there is a very strong social security net. So if your company idea fails, most citizens know that this social security net will take care of them. So that's why a lot of people who have an innovative idea, they dare take the leap, the chance. So I think that's one thing.
Wait, can I stop you there? Because I think this is so fascinating. I think Americans would argue that the reason why we have so much success is because there is no safety net. Like you have to make it work, right? There's a saying in America where we say entrepreneurs are the folks who, jump off the cliff and build the airplane on the way down, simply because there is no safety net. And I'm fascinated by the other side of the equation. Like, well, what if we did have a safety net and you could actually go out and explore without fear of losing your home, your health, or your family in the process?
Maybe it's connected a little bit to different mindsets. Now I'm drawing everybody on the same line here, but I think in the Nordics, and at least when I speak about Sweden, which is my country, there's a very big safety focus, that you shouldn't gamble with things like starting a company. You just don't do that if you're not really sure it's going to be successful. And I think there's a different mindset in the US and in many other countries. Like you say, you have to make it, and that's why you do it, I think. And also I think maybe it's connected to, now I'm thinking out loud here, but maybe it's also connected to the Swedish. We have this, I don't know if it's good or bad, but you don't talk about your successes in Sweden. It's not viewed as, and I think that goes for some of the other Nordic countries as well.
For sure.
In many other countries, including the US, the way I perceive it, a lot more people they feel at home and feel that they need to talk. And it's okay to say that I'm really good at this, and I'm good at this, and I excel at this. And you just can't do that in Sweden. People think and if you don't, there's one exception, that if you don't in the same sentence also declare that you're very bad at something. So without going detail into this, I think maybe it's also a combination of that you need to feel this safety net. Maybe it's dependent on that, because I
look at it as the contradiction. The Volvo was built in Sweden, right? The safest car ever. And the Cybertruck was built in America for the very same reasons, right? I mean, I think this is the range.
It's great that these different mindsets exist, because
we need them both.
Kind of innovative solutions and companies are going to come out of it. So I also think that kind of diversity is great that we have. But another thing I think is about the Nordic is that most organizations, both on a government level and in government, both in public and private, are very flat. So you can question your boss, and that's quite all right, openly. So all your colleagues hear that you think the boss says something really stupid today. Why did you? In many countries, that's not
Not
something
okay.
you do if you don't want to be fired or maybe get a lower salary. But and I think that if you really feel really that you can speak your mind, that is a good thing. And the third thing I think might be important for this mindset is, wait, what was I thinking? Oh, it was one third thing. What was that? I had it here. Yeah. Yeah, the awareness that the next big idea is not going to come from inside the boardroom. I don't think that's necessarily only you think that way in the Nordics, but it's very broad view here that the next big idea is not going to come within from the own company or the CEOs and the high level. It's going to come from somewhere else, and I think that's a good view of thinking that innovation is something that can come from anywhere in society.
Absolutely. And I'm curious what you think about where the story gets told. Certainly, it's my biggest interest, but what do you think is the importance of storytelling in promoting change, especially when it comes to the environment? Because this has not been an easy task around the world, right? To get communities and countries to change their behavior in order to push for more sustainable solutions. Where do you think storytelling plays a role here?
I think storytelling is actually everything. There might be one thing that is equally important, and that's relationships and
Mhm.
creating relationships. And that's basically one of the big reasons that why I can do what I do, because I'm haven't been working within this area for very long, but it really proves that relationships are very important. But the other thing that's really important is storytelling, and that's something that in I think any businesses and in any area, it's very important to use storytelling as a tool, both to get your vision across, but also to get people to understand why is it important what you're saying. Why should I continue listening to what you're saying? You need to tell a story that people can relate to, because we're all in it. All of us are humans on no matter what level you are. If you're at the very top of society or wherever you are, if you're young or old or wherever you are, you relate to stories. And if you then can use that to your advantage to connect with people and organizations and communicate your story, I think that's extremely powerful. And it's also proven that it actually can have a very strong connection to actually to revenue, to it's connected to making money, to say it bluntly. It really is. So I try to tell our winning teams in Hack for Earth that it's very important that they start telling their story really early on, and both how the idea came about and what went wrong and how they overcame that challenge and how they where they are now, and to do this early on. But a lot of people are afraid to do that, I notice, because you
Yeah,
don't want to go public with your solution or your tool before you're ready. But you're never gonna be ready. I'm trying to tell them, you're never gonna be ready, and it's better to share your journey with the world, because in that then you're building relationships, professional relationships, with your story as you go along. So
that's right.
I think it's such an important tool to master, and it's also important, I think, for building your brand, and both a personal brand but also as a company. And if you know some of the really big companies, you know their story, like.
That's right. I think it's helpful for the audiences too to share. The reason why organizations really love storytelling is I think of it as the executive's greatest productivity tool. And here's why. Stanford has done the research for us, Stanford University, and they found that when you are in a meeting and you're just giving facts, just facts alone. So maybe you're the kind of culture where someone says, I don't want a lot of fluff. Just bring me 3 bullets and an Excel spreadsheet and let's get through it. What studies have shown is that people forget those 3 bullets within 6 minutes of leaving the meeting. However, when you wrap facts in a story, those facts become 22 times more memorable. So if you don't want to be a leader who is constantly repeating themselves or having the same meeting time and time again where you are repeating the same conversations and still not making decisions, story is actually the answer to help you move the initiative further faster. So think about using storytelling, even psychologically. It's how we bind with one another inside of a task so that people are all coming together in unison. If everybody is working on different initiatives, even within a hackathon, even within their own small company, if we don't have the story that binds us, we find ourselves very quickly fragmenting, or in large corporations, moving into silos because we're not speaking the same language anymore. So these are ways that innovation storytelling can really help to do that. And by the way, every founder needs a founder story. We need to know the struggle and the agony and the pain surrounding how you got to where you are. Otherwise, I had an idea, I built it, it was successful, is not a story. And by the way, we don't believe you. If there is no pain, no friction, no challenge, then anybody would have figured this out well before you ever got there. We need to hear the story of struggle for empathy, for connection, because us little humans, we bind over the tragedy even more than the triumph. So as you said, and don't forget to tell us what was hard, what was challenging, what was difficult, because that's where our hearts go out and we connect. We feel the pain of the founder and we want to help you. We want to root for you and get to the finish line.
So on that remark, do you want me to share some of
Sure, please. Please do.
Yeah, just a few sentences, because I think me and my team, we have made all the mistakes there is to do in the book. Yeah, really, we have. And that's why now we really have a very good structure. And I think the most important thing that me and my team has learned over the years, and what I really think is our superpower, it is that we trust now in our ability to handle absolutely anything under a hackathon.
Yeah,
Because
resilience.
everything has happened. Like, okay, a few examples. So like when you organize a hackathon, whether it's online with thousands of people from over 100 countries around the world, or you do an in-person hackathon with a few hundred people on the ground, it's kind of like organizing a party or a dinner. It's an event. So, at a party or a dinner, you know that something's going to happen, right? Go wrong. Somebody's going to spill on the carpet, or two guests are going to get in an argument, or the food is not going to be very good, or the wine is going to be bad. Something's going to go wrong. You just don't know what yet. So the most important thing is that you're prepared to handle how you handle it. I would say is the most important thing, to just not start blaming each other or giving bad answers to people or getting in an argument with the guests or something. It's like how you handle it and knowing that we can handle it. So from everything that has happened, when we organized Hack to Crisis Sweden, we had 7,500 people sign up in a matter of a few days. This was during the Corona crisis, and we were expecting a few hundred. So then we realized, okay, there's 5 of us here, and there's 7,500 people within the Slack channel. And this is, of course, a challenge because we didn't have the time to answer everybody's questions. And we solved that. My colleague said that we just tell people to, if they know the answer to something that somebody else is asking within the Slack channel, the open one, please help them out. And this really created an atmosphere of that people were helping each other out. So it wasn't all that bad, it turned out. But of course, other things has happened. The entire platform for turning on in your solution, the hackathon platform, it couldn't handle like thousands of applications. So it broke down.
Oh gosh.
And they had promised us that this would not happen, of course. And of course, it broke down and people couldn't turn in their solutions on time. So that was a difficult situation to handle. And I'm not gonna lie and say that not a lot of us were frustrated when this was happening, but because we were, but we managed that. And all other things has happened, of course, from partners not showing up on time and workshop leaders showing up at the wrong time, and yeah, you name it, everything has happened. So, but the good thing is that when you have had so many bad things, so many things go wrong, you learn that, okay, we handle this and we handle this and we handle this. And it's all about like, okay, how do we do this now to make it the best? And also sometimes to just invite to it and say, okay, this happened. What are we going to do? And to invite them to help if that's possible. And the other thing is that when something goes really wrong, what I've learned, it's easy, I've noticed, to start blaming each other. Whose fault?
Oh,
But I think we have gotten really good at not doing that because it doesn't matter. The only
right.
thing that matters in that situation is like, okay, what do we do now? How do we solve this problem in the best way? Because it has no significance whatsoever in this moment how it happened. That we can talk about later to try to avoid it from happening again. But of course, it's all a learning process. I know that new things are gonna happen at our next hackathons.
Yeah. Well, it's time to move into our hot seat questions. Anne, are you ready?
Exciting. Yes, I think I am as ready as I'm gonna be. Yes.
So who are the Nordic innovators who have inspired you? So authors or designers, environmentalists, technical folk, who's inspired you?
I just love this question, by the way. Thank you for asking this one. The first one, I must say, is Greta Thunberg. I know you pronounce it in the US,
Yeah.
because of her dedication to her conviction and her unfailing like devotion to what she's doing and her uncompromising way of following through on it. Because of her, millions around the world have joined the climate action movement, and to do that, to start that at the age of 16, it's just so impressive.
Incredible.
She's like
Yeah.
really a very impressive person, I believe. And the second person I would like to mention is Gunhild Stordalen. And she is the Secretary General of the EAT Foundation. And her story is she was diagnosed with a serious, deadly disease. And by a miracle, and after a lot of work, she recovered and found this will to start working for a healthier and better planet, with the food security to being the number one thing that she's working on. So, and she's really very inspiring, and also I think her work is exemplary for really taking action on the sustainable development goals for so many people out there who need to end hunger, really. I think that's great. So now I chose two women now. I hope that's okay.
That's
Usually,
fantastic. We need more of that.
yeah.
So, and you are also the author of an incredible book, Dream Hack Build, and you launched it during New York Climate Week last year. What
And
other
actually,
books
right
would
here. Yes, this is it. Yes.
so what other books would you recommend that have inspired you?
You know what? Even though I published a book, I don't have a book recommendation. And you know why?
Mm,
Because we're done reading. I don't want anyone else to read anymore. It's good to read, but what we need to do is to take action, to do something. So I would like to encourage people to take action on the Sustainable Development Goals and a sustainable future, because there is no other future than a sustainable future. So I think at this point in time, where the world looks the way it does, with increasing insecurity and geopolitical issues, I think it's much more important to take action somehow. If that is by speaking your voice or whatever it is, but I think that's more important right now than reading. If that's okay.
Fantastic.
With
Of
you.
course, with the exception of your book. So
Yeah.
they can read yours.
Maybe, my book is a manual to organizing your own hackathon. So it's a
Fantastic.
manual you can actually read it while you're organizing your hackathon. So
I
you're
love it.
taking action on something. But yeah, so it's really like a playbook to do it yourself, because a hackathon can be used in any context. It can be used in a school or in an organization or in a company, or you can use it to create solutions for a country or for big sustainable development goals. But really, it's just a very like focused workshop method that works well in that capacity, that when you work on a challenge together, you have to trust each other on a deeper level. And that's really the magic sauce of it. It's
Yeah.
different from just talking to each other, which can be very good. But if you have the task of actually creating a solution, you will have to get to know each other much better. And that's really part of the magic sauce, I think.
I agree. So, last question, where should we be focusing our attention when it comes to climate over the next 5 years?
Yeah, and this is also a very difficult and important question, because I truly believe that we will need everything that we have in order to keep the focus on the climate at all in the coming 5 years, the way things are looking right now. Because there's one thing about us as humans, and it is that when we don't feel safe, when we feel that our safety is threatened somehow, we focus most of our attention on security and creating a secure world. And that is, I think, what is happening all over the world right now, that security and creating a secure world for citizens globally is something that a lot of nations and companies and so forth and organizations are busy doing. And that's why I think it's important to also connect the climate agenda and all, actually not only the climate, because the sustainable development goals are about more than just the climate, but all of these goals need to be incorporated and connected to security. I think that you can't have a secure future without everybody having access to food, to clean water, to education, to equality, yeah, safe housing. All of these things is very connected to security, but we need to point that out in a bigger way that we have done up until now. And I really feel that the shift is taking place very fast now. Just when I attended the UNCCD, a part of the UN conference on food security and desertification in Riyadh in December 2024. And a lot of the talk there was about the difficulty in reaching the sustainable development goals by 2030, which is the goal that the UN countries have decided on. And I really must say, I came from that conference with really, it was a little bit of a wake-up call that things are looking kind of grim right now. And that's why we need all of us citizens and all of us who want a better future and a sustainable future to speak up. So I think we will have to do everything in our power to keep the climate agenda alive and not get lost in other issues that the world are facing right now, and to see the connection with a sustainable future.
Fantastic. Ann Molin, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Please connect with me there. I'm Ann Molin of the Hack for Earth Foundation. Would be happy to connect with everyone there. And of course, at hackforearth.com, there's more information. And if you want to email me, it's ann@hackforearth.com. But LinkedIn is one of the easiest way to get in touch with me.
And thank you so much for joining me on another amazing edition of Nordic Visionaries. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure to talk with you, Susan. It's been lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.